Well, I
Let
want to
me
do
see
some of
if.
that too.
Okay, it says Cali Sober Mom is live.
It says
Okay.
it's live.
Well, sweet. Then, my friends, we
This
are
is it.
live.
We just did it.
Okay.
Bam.
Welcome. I have a title this time. I felt very uncomfortable last week, awkwardly introducing myself every like 10 minutes because you never know when someone was going to pop on. So I just put it down here. So, hi, I'm Monica, the Cali Sober Mom. And this is.
I'm Flip, the founder of Cali Sober.
And I don't know how many
Not to
times
be
you've been
confused.
asked, we are not the same company.
We're not, but we're friends, and that's what's most
But
important. That's what's
we
most
are.
important.
I can't even remember when y'all launched, but I think Cali Sober Mom came about in like April of this year. And I know you guys have been like longer, and I was like, oh, look at this. And then we met at the Hemp Beverage Festival in Minneapolis, and that was just it. We were set after that.
Yeah, and then it was the history. It was in the history books at that point.
Well, part of the precipice of this show is that I am going to try products of said people on the show.
Oh, snap. You're going to try Cali Sober? In front of me.
I brought my emotional support drinks out.
Nice.
But I didn't know. I have the yellow one too, the Paloma, but I didn't feel like a Paloma tonight. So I'm trying to decide between these two. And I figured this would be a good opportunity for you to tell me which one first and why.
Okay.
Well, first one is the Berry Fizz, and second one is the Ranch Water, for those who don't know.
Right. Do y'all drink ranch waters in New Orleans?
Have no clue what it is. I think it's a Texas term.
It is. It totally is. It's a Southern drink.
But, I mean, you got to remember, I'm from the Midwest, so ranch has a completely different meaning up there.
There's a lot of people who, I mean, so we've got, we're not just in the South, we're in a lot of places. And so we get that, like, is this ranch dressing? Which
no,
it's
really?
not. But yeah, but honestly, that's kind of interesting to me, honestly. But no. So I kind of have a hot take. So ranch water is my personal favorite.
Okay.
But it is a hot take because it's our least selling SKU out of the three.
Really?
But I love it. I love the ranch water. It's a salty lime mocktail, right?
Okay, wait. I'm getting thirsty. So which one am I pouring first?
Well, I guess go with the ranch water first.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what I like about the ranch water is that it's a salty lime mocktail. It's a traditional Texas cocktail made with tequila, lime, agave or simple syrup, and a little bit of salt on the rim usually, or however you want to garnish it.
Okay.
It's a really simple. Oh, it's made with Topo Chico. That makes it a real ranch water, right?
Oh,
so it's a lot of bubbles and stuff.
I've ever tried Topo Chico, actually.
Oh wow!
I know.
It is phenomenal. Honestly, it is a sparkling water. It is so carbonated that it almost like makes you cry when you drink it. It's just like so intense. So what I like about that ranch water is that it's our lightest flavor. It's only 15 calories in the whole thing, 4 grams of sugar. Yeah, everything we do in our product line is low calorie, low sugar. So we're trying to build like a
Oh, sorry. I get ADD and I want to jump ahead.
No worries.
It made me think of something because the other day, like I was with some other moms and they asked me which one I was drinking. And they're like, oh, that one has 60 calories and this many grams of sugar. I could never drink that one. And all I'm thinking is like, man, compared to the bottles of wine I used to down, I would take this delicious 60 calorie drink, but they would only drink something that was like 0 calories or 0 sugar. So
yeah. So we don't do that because we don't do any like artificial. There's nothing artificial or synthetic in our product, right? So there's no artificial sweeteners. That's the only way you can get really like a 0 calorie, 0 sugar kind of product, and still have it be, a little on the sweet side. So we use natural cane sugar, but just the right amount, right? So it tastes light, but hits just right.
And I've also heard that the synthetic sugar, I like that it tastes light, but it's just right. Do you guys have that on a shirt yet?
It's on our packaging, actually.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's so much good stuff on these packagings. Does anyone
well, it's on the it's on the 4 count carton.
Oh,
which
I was like, well,
I
first of
don't have
all,
an example.
no. Oh, the 4 carton. I think, anywho, I was like, no one knows what that is. Okay. What was I going to tell you now? I totally forgot. See, my ADHD.
Like it matters.
This,
I mean, a lot of founders of businesses have ADHD. I'm one of them. And you know, it's fun to have a neurodivergent brain. That's what I think.
when did you get diagnosed with
Yeah.
it, or when did you know?
Oh man. Um, I mean, pretty early on, I've never been formally diagnosed, but I've always dealt with the issues of it my entire life. And I'm not a big Western medicine guy, so that's why I don't like try to go in there and try to, I mean, my wife's a psychologist, so I'm like into that. But
Yeah.
when it comes to taking meds and stuff, I like to just kind of raw dog life a little bit.
Minus a little bit of THC. No, I only
Yeah.
asked because Brittany, my business partner and who does the podcast with me, she's very like adamant about it. She is an influencer, you would
Oh.
think, for ADHD.
Oh,
She
cool.
does a lot of training, a lot of advocating on it. And she's known it for quite a while and has embraced it and based her life around it. I just found out a year ago.
Oh,
Had no
that's right. I think I saw a
had
piece of
no
content where you're talking
clue.
about
And
it.
then as
Yeah.
I'm like going through all this in therapy, she was like, and I was like, no. But I had just used alcohol to numb for so long that it would
Mm,
numb everything that was bothering my like little brain and world. So I'm fascinated
yeah.
by other ADHD people because I am, but I feel almost like a poser talking about it because I didn't know that I had it. And so I'm like learning
Uh,
as I go.
well, I mean, it's all a journey, right? We're all on this path of self-discovery, and sometimes it just comes whenever it needs to come, kind of thing, I think. You know?
True.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's really, I mean, I've definitely had, I guess, problems or issues with it, but I feel like I've really used it to my advantage. I mean, I think there's a lot, especially about like starting a company. And this is like I've started a lot of companies. Like this is my fifth company that I've
I didn't
ran,
know
and
that.
so yeah, and so there's like so I'm like I guess a career entrepreneur or whatever. But like I always say like there needs to be any new venture that I do, there needs to be enough of like the deep end of where I'm learning on the go.
Mhm.
There's like this adage of like building the plane as you're flying it. Like that's actually the activity I like doing, right? So I really like learning. I don't like to be if I did something that I was too comfortable in and that I had like incredible expertise in, um, I get bored. It literally doesn't like capture my attention. And so
Yeah.
I'm not a very hard worker, right? Like I won't just work for like the sake of working. I really have to be I have to really like be really kind of enthralled in it in order to
Yeah.
kind of keep my attention and keep my focus and stuff. And so yeah, that's kind of how I've used it. It's a little challenging sometimes managing people, but what I really like to do is try to just be open and honest with it and just try to
Yeah.
like communicate it so that people know kind of what they're dealing with. And you know like I tell people all the time, like, you could tell me to shut up. Like, I don't, like, I don't ever take offense to it. It's just I won't stop. So sometimes I need the social cues from other people to be like, hey,
Yes. I told
now
someone
is
on
the
a
time to
meeting the
stop.
other day, I was like, okay, I have no other way of saying this except for you have full permission to talk to me like I'm stupid. Like, I don't want either of us, like, I don't want to sit here and pretend
Yeah,
to dance around. Like, I'm not stupid per se, but I'm not an expert on what you're an expert of. And I don't want you to feel like you
sure.
have to sugarcoat things for a business relationship.
Right, right,
So,
right.
yeah, communication. Imagine that.
Oh,
It's
totally.
key.
Well, and
Uh,
it's about, yeah, I mean, I think kind of tying into, I think Cali sober us as a business, like, our vision statement is we see a world that is totally themselves, totally present, and totally stoked, right? And there's that part about
mhm.
being totally themselves is kind of the hardest part. I mean, being present also is difficult, right? But but that path of self-discovery and self-awareness and just really hammering that home in every aspect that we're doing, whether I'm having a business meeting or I'm selling the product at a market or I'm talking to a retailer or distributor or whatever. It's just like I just try to, we all try to just be ourselves as much as we can. And you don't know how
Yeah.
to be yourself unless you've gone through the path of self-discovery, unless you're on that path. I don't think
Yes.
you know, we're always enigmas, I think, to ourselves, but
You know who
every
I
day.
feel like is really good at finding themselves? Gen Zs.
Oh yeah,
I
they
feel like
really are.
Gen Z, I love those kids. I
I love the
love them.
kids.
I will scream it. I don't know. I feel like there's always like, oh, the generation after us, the generation after us, right? I love
Hmm.
everything about Gen Z. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're able to come into their own more than any generation before us, that they feel comfortable speaking out about things.
Hmm.
I don't know. They're smart. They're so smart. Anywho, I think they're
Yeah.
leaps and bounds ahead of either where I was when I was their age or where I felt like I was allowed to be and what I was allowed to say.
Right. It's funny. I've got a few interns that are in college right now, and in a previous jobs I've had interns at every company that I've had, and so I remember having like millennial interns who were just like a few years younger than me when I was running the company, and it is a world of difference. I think this generation, I mean, because that's when I really experienced like the generational shift of managing a millennial as opposed to a Gen Z. And it's phenomenal. I mean, it really is. Like these young adults they're capable, they're competent, they're um they're confident. Like it's just really great. It's really awesome. And it
Yeah.
kind of really works with kind of like my management style too, because there's very little like impressing that has to happen. Like it's just like, what do we do? How are we going to do it? What's the topic at hand? What are the goals? How do we get there? How do we figure it out together, kind of thing.
Yeah. I
It's been pretty
have
great.
um I have a copywriter that's helping me. I'll brain dump everything to her and I'm like, get this out for me, right? She's
Hmm.
amazing. She just turned 22. Met her randomly. This girl might be wiser than me. She is beyond
Mm,
her years, but she will send me emails being like, I think we should have a strategic meeting recap.
sure. Yeah.
And then she will prepare an agenda, and then she will have statistics and stats and ideas. And
Wow.
I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
it's just that initiative. So when I hear
Yeah.
people say Gen Z is lazy, I'm like, what are you talking about? They're just not going to do bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not going to do bullshit just to do bullshit. Sorry, I don't want to either.
Yeah, I've actually haven't experienced that at all with Gen Z. Like, I don't think that I can point to anyone that I've, interacted with where I'm like, "Oh, you're lazy." I mean,
Yeah.
they're all doing something, and it's
Yeah.
really kind of important, whether it's like partying or like going out or being social or whatever. I mean, they're doing all that stuff, but it's still with like a lot of intention and a lot of like, you know, I mean, like we all are. We're just like seeking, just like figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, you see more of them, I feel like, just being out in the events and the feedback and with the whole 90s theme, I feel like that's
Mhm.
very on point with Gen Z. So I just want to hear your takes on their drinking preferences. And if you want
Mhm.
to compare it to any other generations, you just let us know what you
Well,
see.
well, I mean, what I love about this generation is that they're like, well, there's a few things. One is like the stigma of cannabis is just like there's just not one. I mean, it's just so few and far between. So it's like the I always feel like the older the consumer is, the more education I have to do about what's in the product, how's it going to affect you, it's okay, and all that shit. And so I think that's like great. They're also open to alternatives, right? Like when I was in college, um, you had two choices. One was to drink, and then one was to not drink, and that was it. It's like you
Wait,
either
you had two
drink.
choices? I thought it was just drink.
Yeah,
I thought
I mean,
literally college
like
was to learn how
you
to drink
either
and maintain being a drunk throughout the
right.
day.
I mean, it was like there was like I mean, there was a few people that smoked weed, but it was like they were like it was very outcast. It was very like, oh, and in my generation too, it's like smoking cigarettes, like you didn't smoke cigarettes. Like smoking cigarettes was bad, smoking weed was bad. So drinking was the only acceptable kind of form of any kind of, you know, vice or whatever you want to call it. Or you didn't drink, and then that automatically didn't let you, I mean, like you weren't able to participate, right?
Yeah.
Into any of the social scene. And Gen Z is just very much like I find that they still drink, right? Especially like college kids will still drink and party and have a great time, but like they're not getting drunk on a Monday and a Tuesday and on a Wednesday and on a Thursday, which is like that's like what I lived in college, and it's just a very different world.
Yeah. What was it?
They're like, oh, it's Tuesday, I'll
Drinking
smoke a joint
Lincoln.
before I go to bed. Drinking
Sorry,
Lincoln,
like you
what's
remember
that?
those nights like Drinking Lincoln, like Nickel Tuesdays. They
Oh,
had a drink
sure, like at the
special like
bars and
every
stuff. Oh
single
yeah.
night.
Yeah, there was a bar that did 10-cent drinks. That was terrible. Um, yeah, it was interesting. So, I mean, I think that just like growing up in that whole perspective is totally different than, what I did, or my college experience, like coming into 21. But an interesting thing too is like, um, a lot of them are sober. A lot of them don't drink alcohol, right? And so it's interesting because the education that I actually have to bring to them is like, oh, liquor stores have other things. Like you can get other things there. Like we're sold in like all the Total Wines.
Yeah.
A lot of them are like, what's Total Wine? It's like, oh, well, it's a huge liquor store. And it's hard to explain, but trust me, there's like whole aisles for you, or there's at
I
least
didn't
one
realize.
aisle.
See, I didn't know that they wouldn't even know. But I guess, yeah, if you have no intention of drinking, like you pair the two together.
Right, right.
And this
I
is so
mean,
new to being in Total Wines and
right.
in places like that too.
Which is why, like, we find, the use cases is just so interesting. Like we're in a lot of like fitness studios. We're in like the Barry's boot camps here in Dallas, yoga, yoga studios and stuff like that. And for like, coffee shops, delis that close at 7 p.m., and it's like they're selling, 25 cases a month of our product, which is like crazy velocity, but it's just like people drinking it at lunch,
Yeah.
people grabbing a few, after work or whatever. It's like, it's just a whole different, I mean, it's so funny because there's a lot of comparison to alcohol. I think the alcohol that we do, but like the use case is just so much higher, like so many occasions to drink a product like Cali Sober over alcohol. Um, yeah, I think the most interesting thing is that at the bars is kind of the most challenging place. So like we've done a lot of college bars Friday night, Saturday night, but we don't do really well
Yeah.
because they're there to take shots. They're there to, drink alcohol.
Mhm.
They'll drink our product as the last drink of the night, as a nightcap or something like that to kind of chill you out afterwards, which is also an interesting kind of play in dipping your toes in kind of different, I don't know, drugs or mind altering substances or whatever you want to call it. But um yeah, it's just really interesting. I always, when I first started the company, I thought, oh man, that's where we the high energy bars, like we're gonna do incredibly well there. And it was like, we gotta really work. Well, because a lot of people don't even know that
Yeah.
these products are available at the bar. So it's like, then you got to go over that whole hump of like, look, it's a
Yeah.
new product at the bar. Come try it. It's like it's a whole different thing.
I went
It's
into one of
cool.
our bars. So we have bars in New Orleans, and I went into a
You guys have bars in New Orleans?
Mhm.
No, that's
Like,
crazy.
no, New Orleans has bars, but like my family has some bars too.
Mm,
So double
That's
whammy.
what you
But
meant.
yes,
Yes.
New Orleans definitely has bars. But I went in, we were down there checking something out. And so
Hmm.
I've only drank these since being off alcohol. So I've never known the world of like having one or having the other. And I
Hmm.
don't like look at alcohol or look at this and try to decide, right? Like when I go into a bar, I know they either have these or they don't have these. But anywho, so I ordered one and the couple like sitting next to me or was like, "Oh, what is that? We saw it." But the bartender didn't know. I'm like, there was a
That's so
training
funny.
issue, number one, but that's for
Yeah.
a whole another day. So yeah, this couple, like just having to walk them through like what it is. They were nervous, this or that. And in New Orleans, we share everything. So I'm like, oh, here, just have some before I have some. Like, try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they ended up trying, and it was just in that moment, all that education that had to happen with a complete stranger.
Hmm.
And you literally have to know to order them in our bars. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like we have it
Yeah.
plastered or it's like something we're heavily focused on. It's just like, oh, if you don't drink, we also have these type of thing. But
Right.
you're right with the amount of education that has to
Yeah.
happen. And I'm
Yeah.
like 6 months, 7 months into this of like being regular in it. I still am overwhelmed by the amount of misinformation that's out there. Or some
Hmm.
people say this, and I'm just like, I can't keep up with it. So it's
Yeah.
hard, like to know
Yeah. It
where
totally is.
to try or start. And if people have a bad edible experience, then they might not want. There's a
Oh
whole
yeah.
plethora of education, like you said, that
Oh,
has
that's
to
what I get.
happen.
Yeah, and that honestly, that's what I'm like super. I get excited about the format of the drink format because so I have a cannabis company. This is my third kind of company in the space. I had an ad agency that was focused in cannabis and hemp for a little bit,
Okay.
and then I have a gummy company that I currently run with my sister-in-law. Um, that has THC products or whatever in it, and so it's interesting because I get a lot of that, which is like, oh, I can't touch weed. It either makes me anxious or makes me sleepy, or the biggest thing is, man, I took an edible once and I'm never going to do it again. And I always explain it's like, I feel like an old geezer, but it's like, the products that are on the market right now are very strong, right? And like I always say, like I'm a stoner, so like I'm cool with the heavy dose products, but like I've been doing this for years and years and years, right? A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people will take an edible, they don't know it takes up to an hour to hit. And so they'll take another one. And so they end up two in, and even if it's a traditional edible, then you're like 20 milligrams in. For someone who's brand new to cannabis, that's gonna
That's
really
gonna rock
rock
your
someone's
world.
world.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna be high for like 3, 4, if you're maybe 5, 6 hours. And so like if you're having an unpleasant experience, you're like, man, you're just on the train and you just can't get off, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's really bad. What I love about the drinks is like you can self-regulate, you can drink as much as you want, or if when you start feeling, since they hit quicker, like 10 to 15 minutes, you know, while you're drinking the drink, you get to feel how you're feeling. So you're like, okay, there's no shame. I always say there's no shame in the game of drinking half. Put it
Mhm.
down. And if you feel great, cool. Put it down, chill out. If you want to feel a little bit better, then continue to drink or whatever. But if because it's water soluble, it metabolizes through your body quicker. So like you can chill out for an hour and most of the experience is already, has happened. Right. So it's not like it's not this thing where, and a lot of people just think, oh, that's the way weed works. And it's not at all. It's just the format, you know.
I
Um,
tell people all the time too, like, I can't smoke actually. Every time. So I was always turned off by weed because, I had only known it in the smoking form.
mhm,
And every time
sure.
I did it, man, it was like instant high,
Right.
uncomfortable, anxious. Now, granted, that could have been part of my undiagnosed mental stuff like trauma and anxiety that I was unbeknownst to me dealing with. I'm sure those two went
Hmm.
hand in hand, but it just like floods my receptors. Whereas with these drinks, you can just take a little bit, or I can take a low dose gummy and wait for it to gradually kick in. And it's been such a different experience. And I think that's really hard for someone to grasp because in
Yeah.
alcohol, you're either drunk or you're not drunk, right?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what do you mean the form I take it in is going to have? And that's a lot to
And,
learn, but
well, and we don't have alcohol gummies or alcohol like smoke. Like it's like cannabis is just way more versatile in that way of format. And so yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of education that comes with this category. Um, but that's all the fun, right?
yes. I'm responding because Terry Brown lets us know he loves weed drinks.
What's
I don't
up, Terry Brown?
Terry Brown.
Let's go,
So I
Terry
asked him what his
Brown.
favorite one, and he let me know that he's in Atlanta, so he only has the D9,
Okay.
which I don't like to say only get D9 because only is limiting and it's actually very amazing. But we can go into that detail. So yeah, I just love the support of we love weed drinks in the
Oh
South.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're really great. And the cool thing is like even on the cannabis side, we just had like a couple of months ago, we had some headset data from kind of the dispensaries out in California, and the drinks there are actually picking up, which is great because like historically over the past like whatever 10 years, drinks have only made up like 1% of the cannabis market.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the low dose drinks and stuff like launched like 8 years ago, something like that. And the challenge is like the people who walk in dispensaries are stoners. They're not normal people. And so a lot of the low dose stuff is has kind of been overlooked. But the format of the drinks are finally like picking up. I think there was like a 8.8% month over month growth. So it's the fastest growing category right now in dispensaries, which is great. But the stoners are finding out like, oh wait, drinking weed is actually wonderful. Like
Yeah.
you don't have the cough, you don't have the like the especially if you're like doing dabs or something like that. Like it's really really hard on your lungs. I mean, it really and it makes you cough a lot and choke a lot. You can get just as high by drinking a drink. The onset's pretty quick, and then and so you don't have the problems of edibles, right? Where it's like, well, I got to take 100 milligrams of edibles, but then I still got to wait around for an hour. Like
Yeah.
it's really great. I'm really excited about just seeing how the industry itself is just growing.
Yeah, I know. So, like, when I got interested in this, it was July of 2023 was the first time I ever had a can of beverage. And it was,
Hmm.
I was 3 months alcohol free. And it was the first time we were really going to be socializing. We were having a 4th of July pool party. And I'd been using the beverages. No, I haven't been using the beverages. I've been using the edibles. And I remember seeing something for beverages. And the only place locally they were sold at the time was at my local wine store. So lucky me, the trying not to drink, getting ready to host a pool party,
Yeah. You gotta go
gotta
to the
go to
wine
the
store for
wine store
yourself.
to get them. But
So
they were
fun.
like so amazing. And then I was drinking them and kind of like very quietly telling people about them. And then December, I started being a little bit more open with it. But just seeing, I was like, y'all, it is soccer moms. Moms don't want wine anymore.
Hmm.
We are so overworked. We are so overwhelmed. We are stretched in every single direction. And then you want us to put alcohol in our body and make us miserable and miserable and miserable. It's just been this
Hmm.
vicious cycle. And so to see this like taking off now and getting more social acceptance, especially in the areas I talk to. Like I'm in the deep South, the Bible Belt, and I'm from the Midwest. So I'm kind of in that territory that doesn't openly
Yeah.
talk about this. People would smoke privately, but we didn't have dispensaries we could walk into or openly crack one of these at like a barbecue.
Hmm.
So it has been so fun to see it kind of just like slowly trickle out this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I was on a panel a few weeks ago, and I was asked like, how do I deal with the stigma of cannabis?
yeah.
It really like kind of made me think. I was like, well, how do I actually do it? And like, it's just being loud and proud about it, and being open and honest. Like I always say, I love this job because I'm able to I talk to people about their alcohol use, and their cannabis use. Like, and those are the top two topics that I'm like talking to people about. And those, because there is this stigma around both of those things, different for each kind of for each product, but like it allows people, I mean, it kind of forces people to be vulnerable, right? Because like if you're going to engage with me in a conversation about this, like most people are just honest because they're like, oh, well, I don't know, I'm drunk right now or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's I think that just the more we talk about it and the more that we um just say, hey, it's okay, like everything is okay, and I think that's
Hmm.
the biggest thing that people want and need to hear is that they're okay and that their journey is okay just like everyone else's journey, and we didn't all get to hear in a straight line. A lot of us had some, that's the way life goes. And so I think being truthful with that and being open and honest about that is really how we really remove the stigma, because um, it's strong. It's crazy. I mean, the cannabis thing is like crazy. It's crazy how much people, I'm like amazed sometimes where I'm like, like one of our opening lines usually, like when we're selling the product to like strangers at markets or something like that, it's like, or I'm doing samplings, I say, hey, you want to drink some weed? And everyone's like, what? And a lot of times it gets a great response or whatever. But there's some people who were like, oh my God. Like I was in a liquor store and I was doing a
Yeah.
sample. This was last Friday. And some guy looked at me, he's like, I don't want any of that bullshit. And I was like, okay. As he like has his bottles of vodka and tequila. And I'm like, all right,
Bye, sir.
whatever, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but it's just so funny. It's like, no, my product is bullshit, but your product is totally fine. And why? You know what I'm saying? Like, but
I
whatever.
think
I'll
that
just
can
say
go
have
a
a great night.
lot too. We started this conversation off really about like how Gen Z is so much more open and fluid and understanding, and we'll talk to you about anything before they judge. I genuinely feel like a Gen Z will want to sit down and get the whole scope before they really make an opinion on anything, right?
Hmm.
And you think of previous generations, I'm not going to name them, I'm not going to shame them, but a lot of the stigma that I get back is from an all or nothing mentality of, if
Right.
it's not my view, I don't want to hear your view. I automatically have to diminish your view. And that's the
Hmm.
only way to make mine relevant, is what I feel like I keep seeing more and more. And I live in this very weird world where like I have this huge family, half of them just ignore. My in-laws ignore everything I'm doing. We don't, it's the weirdest thing. And then some of my family, cool. Some of them have never asked a question. And then I live in the most conservative part of town. One of the Supreme Court justices graduated from my kid's school. Like, that's that area. So I'm constantly in this, like, in and out of like, sometimes I'm on LinkedIn and going on this rant. And then other times I am quietly eating gummies in the closet on vacation, because you have to hit a line of, how far do I want to take this? Is it
Yeah.
worth the argument and knowing your audience? So I just did like a whole piece, I think it was in like Green State, about how to talk to family members or loved ones about your cannabis use. And I
Yeah.
say, like, be loud and proud when you want to, but like any sales situation, know your audience.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
figure out what it is that puts up that brick wall, and know if you're ever going to be able to overcome it. If you know you're just arguing with a brick wall, like, don't even join the argument. But
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
what it is that they're worried about. What is the stigma per se? What do they think that's so wrong? And try to talk about that issue versus putting down theirs to make yours better, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to like take it like full circle like
No,
that,
I mean,
but
I think that makes total sense, and it's also interesting in this, like, where we find ourselves in relationship with alcohol, right? And it's like I always say, like, we're an alternative, just like other things are alternatives. You can't drink alcohol all of the time, right? I mean, so I guess you
I mean,
could.
I tried, Flip.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
tried
there's like,
staying hard.
but I always say, like, we're like alcohol's cousin. We're just like and we're still at the party, we're still fine. Like, it's just we're just another way to have a good time. That's kind of how we're trying to like position ourselves. Like, I mean, I'm alcohol free and I've been sober from alcohol for 2 years now, but that's not, I mean, there's nothing about that that makes it any better or any worse than anybody else. That's just like
Yeah.
my current, that's just my journey.
Yep. Someone when I was on with Holly last week, she had asked me like how I handle it when my family owns bars and if my husband still drinks. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I'm not prohibition. Like, I just want the truth about alcohol to come out the way where research and studies aren't hidden, like I want
Yeah.
people to be able to walk into the bar. I think they should have every option on the bar or at the grocery store, wherever it is they're going.
Just cocaine at the grocery store. That's what we need.
Right? Line it up. But no, have the education. Like if they have the education of what each one is and what potential long-term effects are and this and that, then make their own decisions. Like I am by no means prohibition. Everyone's going to have a vice. Like don't limit them, just educate and don't try to lobby it into being something good when it's not, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like my long view form of saying it.
No, I mean, I think that totally makes sense. I mean, I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying is like, like I always say this, like when I kind of chose to go sober from alcohol, um, I went to AA because that was like the only thing to do. It was like very binary. You either drank or you didn't drink. Like I was saying, like in
Mm-hmm.
college, right? Like that was my own framework. It was just like, okay, well, if I'm not going to do this, you go to AA and they're like, nothing from the neck up, and it's like, okay, well then I gotta like, oh, white knuckle my life, And I loved AA. I mean, I really loved it. I loved recovery. I loved the 12 steps. I loved the big book. I loved alcoholics. I found like, man, I love alcoholics so much. They're so amazing and honest and truthful and real, and it's
Real. They're real.
yeah, dude. They're
They
just
have
like
so much depth to them. There's
totally
usually a reason. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to be an alcoholic.
right,
This is what I
right,
strive to be.
right.
I'm going to abuse this and I'm going to make everything about my life difficult.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much more that's behind that. A deep trauma they
Totally,
faced,
totally.
undiagnosed. Yeah, there's so much depth and so much lives that alcoholics or people with alcohol abuse disorder have lived. They're fascinating
Oh
people.
yeah. Well, and it's great. I mean, there's the part of that's like, you typically don't find AA until you've hit rock bottom, right? It's kind of like the saying. And it's like, you know, it's like hitting rock bottom is important because it's like you're living the breadth of life, and then coming from that, no matter where you were at, if you're starting at the bottom and then trying to come up, like, wow, it's like that's the fullness of life, right? That's why they're so amazing because it's like the perspective is phenomenal. But I found out that like I realized that I loved everything about the program except for I wasn't an alcoholic, and I was like, oh, I actually want to do this kind of third way of sobriety where it's just, and just finding a different alternative that's kind of my thing or things that I'm open to because I'm open to more stuff than just cannabis. But like, it was kind of a personal decision for me of like where I figured it out. But like, everything that was taught to us was just like binary, binary. It's like this or that, and that's it. There's no gray area. You're either, and which is like really robbing, I think, life of life, because that's not the way it works. That's not the way the world works at all.
Yeah, I talked to so many women because I also tried AA. I did the online meetings because I was like, I tried to quit so many times before. I was like, something's got to be different. So I tried these. There were things I loved about it, but there was so much about it that just wasn't for me. Shocker that I've never done well with rules and authority. Shocker. So naturally it just did not sit well with me personally, but there were so many things I loved about it. But the amount of messages since starting this and being open about this, and I did a podcast episode with a dear friend who's now like 4 years alcohol free. And we talked about the struggle we found in AA with being accepting to cannabis use and how much we were kind of shunned and pushed away or felt like you couldn't talk about it. And the amount of women that have reached out that are just have been searching for community for so long, needed to get off alcohol, but didn't have anywhere to go, and AA shunned them for using cannabis. And they've kind of been in these like shells of themselves. And it's just amazing to see like it's being more accepted now. There's every day we go forward. I said this last week, society is more and more accepting of you not drinking. Every single day. So no matter when you quit, you're going to have more support than anybody else ever had, right? In our time that we know, but that you don't have to do just AA. There's going to be amazing other options out there. If you do like that, we're helping break stigmas and get it more accepted, get it where you can go out to whatever your third place of choice is and hang out and socialize without feeling like you have to have a drink or you can't go because you're not drinking.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge. I mean, you nailed it. Of like, there is a vacuum. There is like, where is our third place? Because it's it's a lot of alcoholics' third place is AA, right? Like you go to a meeting every day. Like you're always going to find your community, because there's always a meeting, right? But yeah, if you're shunned by that community, or feel ostracized, or feel like you don't belong there, where do you go? I think that's a big question, honestly. I think that's what we're going to really figure out, I think, in the next decade, which is like, it could be the coffee shop. I think that's been a third place for a lot of people. Every time I think about it, I just think of Friends and Central Perk, and I'm like, man, it was so great, like comparing that to like Cheers, right? I think I'm like old as shit, but like, Cheers, like the third place obviously was the bar, and that everything life revolved around there. And then in Friends, it was like a home, and it was the Central Perk place, But like we don't have that. I don't know what that new place is now, Maybe it's music festivals. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Maybe it's what?
Music festival. I'm trying to think of like what Gen Z really does, and it's I think it's ever shifting, but it's not a place yet. I don't think it exists yet. I mean, it might in some communities, but
my co-host for my podcast that I was telling you about, Brittany, she just kind of restructured her business a little bit, and within her warehouse that they used for a lot of their subscription boxes, she has essentially turned it into like an art studio. And but she's doing blind date art classes, and so they're not really like blind date. You don't know what you're going to do until you get there. And so you show up and she's teaching you how to do this art project. And it's a way just to like socialize, do something with your hands, use your creativity. And that's like on Tuesday nights. And then on Thursday nights, they're doing this like, just come have a movie and hang. They're going to throw up a projector. They're going to, and it's like, and I told her, I was like, I want a place like that. Like, I want a place like that, but you're in Iowa. I can't do it. I'm just curious how many more of like things like this that are gonna pop into the scene and kind of take off, or what the next third place looks like. Because I want it offline.
Oh yeah, I think that's gonna be it's definite. I think that's definite. I think we crave human connection, and like there's just something about sharing space with people that's like can't be replicated. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. But I'm old now and I've got kids, so it's like, or I've got a kid, so it's like, I don't got time to hang out anyway.
I'm telling you, maybe it's because I was always drunk at everything I was doing, but Lord, did I have some fun in my 20s and 30s, like, woohoo. But I've started going out again recently, like just recently.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
And I don't even know. I mean, the only times I'm out is for a bar activation, and I'm like, how do we get home as soon as possible? I mean, it's crazy. I'm like yawning at 9 p.m. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe I just keep in mind, I have been locked, like, not physically locked in my home, but I got pregnant March 9th, 2020.
Mm,
So 5 days before the world shut down,
yeah, yeah.
and was immediately like work from home, then had 3 kids in 18 months, then had the epic postpartum meltdown. And so
Mm,
like I am coming out of my cocoon
yeah.
into the world
You're a butterfly.
for the
Let's
first
go.
time in 4.5 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
am like, let me free. So I have
That's
this weird
awesome.
perspective on it. Like I want to go do all the things and be everywhere in the world
That's
when I
cool.
hadn't left my house in 4
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. I love that for you. That's amazing. I really do. I love that for you.
Oh, is that me? It's gonna switch on us. That means I've been on an hour.
Oh, oh. You're
You wanna see? You wanna pick one? What you feeling?
sure. Yeah, that's the TV. I thought it was like a piece of art of some sort.
Yeah, if you ever
It's like
wanna sponsor
interactive.
anything, here you go. We can throw Oh,
Oh
shoot.
yeah, throw some Cali Sober on there.
Alright, we went with a skull.
That's cool. It's very fitting for the theme. I like it.
Figure it's very Halloween. This probably won't age well when someone's watching it in April. But
They'll
thank
be
you for
like,
coming back
"What?"
and watching this. If you are watching this in April 2025, cheers. Um,
Yes, if it's 420, please drink a Cali Sober. I've got a
I'm gonna
Liars. Shout out to my Australian homies.
Yeah, let's talk about how you
I
didn't bring
love this drink, by the way. I actually just did a piece of content where I went in Total Wine and kind of did my favorite non-alc bevs, and this was one
Yeah.
of them. There's like a pizza place that's down the street from my house, and they have these, and I feel like they only stock them for me. I'm not sure, but they know when I'm there. They're like, all right, this guy's got to get his spritz on.
We do, pizza Friday nights. Every Friday night, my family and I,
Oh, cool.
we do pizza, and one of our favorite places right around, like, the corner is Theo's, and they serve 2 local THC beverage brands.
Oh,
And so I
cool.
always, like, take a photo. So it's awesome. Like, we go in there, my kids play video games. There's these, like, old school Pac-Man things, and by play, I
Hmm.
mean, they're young enough where they can think they're doing something.
Sure,
We
sure,
don't
sure.
actually
Yeah,
put money into these things. But so they sit there thinking they're playing Pac-Man. I get to have my THC beverage, and my husband doesn't drink a lot, but if he wants like a Bud Light, and that's what he drinks. He can
yeah. Yeah,
grab a Bud Light, and I'm like, this is how the world should be. Like,
totally.
this is how a
You
Friday
just have
night
an
should
option.
be.
Yeah, totally.
Can you buy them in Texas? Can you have them at restaurants there?
Yeah, it's not everywhere, but there's a few, in each market, there's definitely a few spots. They're mainly in like liquor stores, package stores, convenient stuff like that. But on premises, I mean, we're getting there.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing the Lord's work and trying to spread it around.
Yes, everyone. If you're on this live, if you are watching us in April of 2025, go speak to your favorite restaurants. Like go into the
Yeah,
places you want them in and just tell them, say, hey, what's stopping you? Because
yeah.
I'll actually be curious to know that. Like I've heard, so local in New Orleans, I was really curious because almost all of our grocery stores sell them, right? But
Hmm.
there's this one chain of grocery stores, and by chain, they have 2 locations. But I often find myself having to go to this one because it's right next to my favorite little coffee shop that I go to weekly to pick up my coffee, and we'll go in for. And so I always look, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they have it yet. Well, I found out it's because one, like, what's the person at the top of the family? Not patriarch, because it's the grandmother, the matriarch of the family.
Matriarch, yeah.
Sorry, forget words sometimes. Um, she refuses. She
Oh,
thinks
yeah,
she is gonna ruin the world if she allows weed drinks to be sold from her store. And that just like is fascinating to me. Like every grocery store around, like
yeah,
so many places, and just that one holdout
yeah.
keeps.
We've got a pretty big liquor chain here, a liquor store chain that like the response was our owners don't believe in THC drinks. I was like, what does that mean? It's like, okay, but like we will continue to sell them alcohol as much as we can and try to get them to sell, which is fine. But
Yeah.
it's just interesting. It's like, what an interesting position you have. You know, like
Yeah. So
whatever. It's
question for
okay.
the Gen Zers, are they physically going to buy these? Are they picking favorites and having them shipped to their house? Like what is the buying behavior?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. I mean, I think that they're like I said, we're in a lot of, I guess, untraditional spots for at least from like an alcohol perspective. So like, we're kind of in the spots that they're visiting, right? Like fitness studios, coffee shops, um, bagel shops, things like that, Some of them, I mean, they're definitely going to liquor stores, right? Because they're also buying alcohol. And so they're
Yeah.
there as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're on DoorDash too. So like we are getting a lot of delivery too, which is great. Um, but yeah, we're trying to figure that out actually, I guess. We're just trying to like put it in any places that will really that we feel kind of aligned with our brand and our customer and just seeing how it goes. But honestly, everywhere we put it, people get really interested in it.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, we're in like a whole bunch of states too that like we don't have teams in, and the velocity is still really good. So it's like, I mean, we're at an interesting place right now where it's like just having these products available for people, like, there's definitely a product market fit for this
Yes.
category. I mean,
Yes.
like a lot of people have been looking for something like this, and even more people just want to would is willing to try or willing to try things like this. So I mean, and also online too. I mean, there's a lot of online, purchasing as well of this whole product as well. So it's kind of all the places. I think the only challenging places really are the bars for us, which is interesting. Which you really wouldn't think, but you know.
Yeah. Then once you learn a little bit more, but we did not come here to go down a political rabbit hole. I'm trying my best to have fun. I got deep down that political rabbit hole this summer. It went deeper than I wanted to get involved in it.
Oh,
And
really?
oh yeah, I learned and heard some things I never wanted to hear, learn and see and know about the world. So I was like, I'm going
Yeah.
back to trying my beverages, which this ranch water is delicious, by the way.
Oh, cool. You're almost done with it. I wanted you to try the berry
Oh,
ginger
I'm
too, if
going.
you
I got
could.
6 more minutes.
Oh, let's go. Chug, chug, chug. No, I'm just kidding. I
Why
promote
not? My
responsible
husband put
drinking.
all 3 kids to bed tonight.
Oh, all
That's
three.
half the reason
That
I'm
is
like, yeah, I can
that's
schedule one
amazing.
live a week and get out of bed tonight.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what happened to me tonight too. I was like, so I got a meeting at 8 o'clock. She was like, what? I was like, peace out.
But in my defense, so my husband has season Pelican tickets,
Okay.
and he was about to give them up right after we had our twins. And he's like, because it's like 41 home games.
Oh
It's a
wow, that's a lot.
lot. And
Wow.
he was about to give
That's a
them
lot of
up. And he's
hockey.
like, there's no way 3 kids under 18 months, I can go to 41 home games. But I know how important it is to him. And I was like, keep the tickets. We'll figure something out. And he ended up going in with some friends of ours. So now he has 2/3. And we've just
Oh,
made it work because it's so important to him. And he loves where his seats are and all of that. So the season just started. So he gets his games. I get to come out here. And it sounds like you and your wife are very similar. Like if you have something, you cover each other with the kids, which is
yeah. I mean, that's
so
like
helpful to get that night away sometimes.
already totally.
Okay.
It's very rare that happens. That's the berry ginger fizz. So that's our most popular drink. That's a strawberry ginger hibiscus.
This
That
is
was
the
just
one, anytime I post this drink, like, I was drinking a lot of these in the summer. These were
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
We're out by the pool,
yeah,
by
yeah,
the
yeah.
way. Every time I post it, everyone's like, oh, I'm so happy you got your own drink. Where do I order it from? And I'm like, we are not the same brand, but I love them and you should still order it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. Like, I mean, I think there's something about the pink color too. I mean, like people just, it's kind of iconic. The cool thing is we're working on a Cali Sober double, which is going to be that berry ginger fizz, same flavor, but in 10 milligrams.
Okay.
But we kind of do the other side of the color palette. So like all of our drinks are kind of in that softer, almost like pastel-y kind of
Yeah.
vibes.
Soft
And
vibe.
then but the Cali Sober doubles in like a hot pink, and it is killer. It looks fucking amazing. I'm so
I mean,
excited about
considering my colors are pink and green, I'm going to be like right up that alley and being like, I want all
it.
the
Yeah, it's very
merch.
similar to your kind of hot pink that you got going on. It's
um,
a little more saturated, but it's
yeah.
cool. It definitely pops. It's pretty crazy.
So I will say this one definitely lighter. So
Yeah,
this one I could see myself like if I was gonna have multiple, right? Like if you're going out for a long, I say like an outdoor music festival. We have like Jazz Fest here. You're gonna go tailgating. That's a
sure.
lot lighter and easier. This one's so full flavor that after one, like I wouldn't want that, but the flavor, like if I was gonna sit down and have like one of these, or even as like a substitution for a glass of rosé, like you
Oh,
can't
sure.
tell me you sit down like with on an ice cold like glass that this would be a perfect just swap. And what's this one? Is this 15 calories too?
20 calories.
20. Wow.
20 calories, 7 grams
And
of
no
sugar. Yeah.
like artificial sugars or dyes.
Nothing artificial and nothing synthetic. That's a big thing. It's like we really wanted to. I mean, kind of our whole ethos is like the Cali Sober lifestyle is about plant medicines, right? So it's all about like looking to nature for your kind of alternatives for everything, right?
Yep.
Even having a good time, or changing your mood, or shifting your brain in any way. And so we thought it was important to like put natural things in our product, right? And so that kind of went through no artificial sweeteners or colors or flavorings or any of that stuff. And then also with our THC, which we I think there's a lot now that do all natural Delta 9 THC, but
Okay.
we were definitely we were not first, but we were definitely early on that train. I think that because
Okay, so let
most,
me ask, when you say all natural versus someone not using all natural,
yeah,
what does that mean to the consumer? Like
yeah.
break that
So
down. Does that mean like an actual like plant or it's not coming from another country or there's no solvents? I don't
no,
honestly
no, no,
still
no.
really know what that means.
So like it's like in the hemp industry, or like Louisiana, y'all don't have rec cannabis, do you?
No, we have
Or it's
medical and
medical,
that's
right?
it. Yeah.
So if you go to like a smoke shop or a hemp shop or whatever, just like in Texas, right? We've got a medical program, but it's very few and far between. So everything in that smoke shop or anything in that hemp dispensary is going to get you high, right? Like all those products have some sort of cannabinoids, right? That
Okay.
will get you high. But there's a lot of them. There's like Delta 8 THC, Delta 9, Delta 10, THCO, THCP, THCV. Like there's everything that you can kind of imagine. It's really overwhelming, right? I always say but the thing is there's only two cannabinoids that are in the hemp industry that are natural. So you can
Okay.
take CBD, isolate CBD, and then turn it in a lab. You can turn it to any other cannabinoid found in the plant. And that's what most
Okay.
people do. There's
And that's
obviously
synthetic.
that's synthetic, right? So there
Okay.
was a big CBD boom, right,
Yes.
for a little bit, and then it went away. And so there was a lot of CBD that was produced. So uh, the first part of that was they took the CBD and turned it into a Delta 8 THC.
Okay.
And that was kind of what proliferated around. So Delta 8, no matter what, is synthetic. Like
Okay.
there's not enough natural Delta 8. I mean, it does naturally occur, but there's not enough for all the products that exist out there. It's
Okay.
like definitely synthetic. And the thing so there's only two cannabinoids that are natural. There's all natural Delta 9 THC,
Yeah.
which you have to ask for because you could also make Delta 9 synthetically. And a
Okay.
lot of the Delta 9 is made synthetically because it's cheaper, it's easier to do, right?
Okay.
If you want to make an all natural Delta 9, you have to take a bunch of hemp plants and make a distillate out of all the hemp plants and then isolate that Delta 9 out of that. If you want to make a synthetic Delta 9, it's great. You just buy freaking CBD, turn it in a lab, put it in some, whatever salt. I'm not a chemist, so I don't know how to do this.
We're not going down
Yeah,
that rabbit hole.
but you can turn it into delta 9 THC, and it's supposedly the same thing. So
Okay.
there's all natural delta 9 THC, and then there's THCA, which is like flower,
Mm-hmm.
which is natural. And the loophole there is THCA is the precursor to delta 9 THC. So like in its THCA form, it's considered hemp because it's not delta 9 THC, but it
Okay.
turns into delta 9 when you light it. So like you light it when you're smoking it, it turns into weed, which is kind of amazing.
Okay.
But that's it. That's not every tourist that comes in. I get that question a lot. I thought weed wasn't legal here in Texas. Like,
Yeah.
well, you can go into that shop and definitely buy, whatever products you want, but there's only those two cannabinoids that are all natural, if that's what you are looking for. If you don't care about the synthetic stuff, then it doesn't matter.
I'm just trying to learn as I go and keep up, right? I always tell people, I'm like, look, I've been getting the information. I still don't fully know. I'm never going to know biology or science or whatever well enough. It's like, find people and companies you trust. People and
Yeah.
companies you trust, go with that until you have a reason not to trust them. Always be aware, be open to if you have a reason later, but that's the way to go right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's like it's all a marketing thing. I mean, that's the challenge is like in an unregulated market like what we're all mostly playing in. Like the cool thing is that there's some states that are coming and banning the synthetic cannabinoids, which is great.
Mhm.
I honestly think that's a great. I mean, some of my hemp friends might hate me for saying that, but like I feel like that in the interest. Like I'm not for regulation, just generally, but in the interest of public safety and prevention of harm for children, I'm all for that stuff. And so it's like I really feel like I feel more comfortable with natural cannabinoids that actually exist, that were actually made by God, like that actually exists in the plants, as opposed to the synthetic stuff that we just don't have any research on. Like people have been smoking weed for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
They have not been, smoking synthesized Delta 8 or Delta 10 or THCO or THCV like forever. It's only been like, I don't know, a couple years now. And so, you know, I just think it's dangerous to do that.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I like it. We'll have to do
Yeah.
another more in-depth. We can go into politics, I'm sure, the politics of cannabis for hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours,
Well,
but I don't think people want to see that here.
no,
Right
well,
now.
yeah, I'm like I'm also like a self-proclaimed anarchist too. So like it's interesting to play in a space that's so political. Because I mean it's just all bullshit. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like all about money and power, and that's it. And like
Yeah.
it's not, no one cares about anything other than those two things. Like
Mhm.
anyways, and I'm
Yep.
not here
Nope.
to
I'm
preach
here
about
with
that
you,
stuff, but
but
it's very challenging.
until we can get the public voting people out, I should say, of seats that are taking money for power and whatever. But that's what we're here to do. We're here to help destigmatize. Here to help make picking one of these drinks up just as normal.
Hmm.
So you can feel comfortable saying why you want to vote for someone based on or off of this. And that's just the one step we can do and just keep fighting away, fighting
Just
the
keep
good
living your
fight.
lives. Yeah, dude, totally.
Have our plan to move off the grid and never come back. But anywho, it was
Oh, that'd be fun.
fantastic. No, I don't actually have a plan, but I would love one. So if anyone does have one, send me your off the grid plan to escape.
Oh yeah, I've got some thoughts.
Because I will say this. I told my husband this, and then I got to jump off. If anything were to happen, Louisiana is probably the last state that I would want to raise two daughters in if shit really hit the fan.
Mm,
It is not
yeah.
one of the states I think I would feel super comfortable turning over to, I should say. But that's a whole nother discussion that I probably should not have brought up on here.
No, that's fine. We could do another live and talk about all the things we shouldn't talk about.
I know, right? One day
I
I
think
gotta
that's
like,
the best.
this is what I do. I dip my toe in all these things. I'm like, oh, let me try this out. Like, let me try a podcast. Let me try this. Let me try this. And then I get comfortable. And then I start saying all the things I really want to say that actually need to be said. So give me just a little bit. Get there.
Well, I think more power to you. I mean, I think you keep living your life and keep doing your path, Monica, and we'll get here.
We'll see what
It's great.
happens.
Yeah,
But
totally.
any last words of advice you would like to leave for anything for Gen Z drinkers? Last minute plug on Cali Sober. We'll put the links in whatever we post. I don't even know.
Um, yeah, no, I guess no advice. What do I want to end with?
No
I don't know.
advice. Just go
You
live your
know,
life, you fuckers.
yeah, I mean, really live your life, you fuckers. I think that's really a part of it. I mean, I just think that there's like, I think no matter, maybe I'll bring it back to the vision, right? So like seeing this world that's like, totally themselves, totally present, totally stoked. I think that like that, I think that's the righteous path, you know? And if we
Mhm.
can just move anywhere closer to that, no matter what you're doing, if you're slinging THC drinks or you're doing podcasts or you're, just whatever, if we can kind of move towards that, I think that that's where we need to be going and helping others along the way in order to get there. So
I
has
love it.
nothing to do with like really anything except for um
It has to do
I
with
really
everything. Go be
well,
yourself and
yeah.
live your life. That's better than anything else I think I heard most of my
Yeah.
life.
Well, great. Well, then there's my advice, y'all.
And I'm
We'll
out.
see.
Mic drop. Well, thank you. And anyone that came on or still on or watching this in April of 2025, thank you.
Thank you. It's like
Bye.
420 in 2025 and during our whole podcast. All
All
right.
right. I'm
Peace
going to
out,
hit
y'all.